In part 1 of our interview with Drew Matthews and his sister Mindy, we learned how their dad, Dollar Bill, claimed that Jesus ordered him to start a church inside his father's Ford dealership, only to destroy his parents' business in the process. He then became a traveling preacher with Jimmy Swaggart Ministries and dreamed of one day becoming a televangelist. There was just one problem. Bill was broke. Eventually, he took over a shady church riddled with controversies. As head pastor, he claimed an angel threw a fireball into his stomach, giving him the power to heal cancer and see angels. Specifically, Maytag angels carrying refrigerators for those lucky parishioners who donated enough money to his church. At home, he was just as shady, subjecting Drew to an exorcism and body-shaming Mindy. He also ran their household under Michael and Debbie Pearl's damaging to train up a child doctrine. But this would be nothing compared to what would happen in the years to come. In this video, we'll dive into the remainder of Drew's shocking story, including his mother's suspicious death and how his father stole his wife and child. This is part 2 of our Pastors Gone Wild story, the scandalous story of Drew and Pastor Bill Matthews. Before we begin, please allow me to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Solitaire Grand Harvest. If you are a fan of either Solitaire or the Smurfs, then you'll love this mobile game that I've been playing. It's the #1 free solitaire game in the world, and now it's even better because the Smurfs have been added in-game. With Solitaire Grand Harvest, Solitaire has never been more fun. Seriously, it's not just a card game anymore. It's a riveting farm-building adventure featuring all your favorite Smurfs. You play classic solitaire, win levels, and grow crops, all while helping the Smurfs rebuild their adorable little village. I love how relaxing it is, but still super rewarding. It's a great way to enjoy and challenge yourself. The game is full of lovable characters like Sunny the Squirrel and Greedy Smurf, who has quickly become one of my favorites, and you even get to raise your own Smurf pet. Yes, really. Solitaire Grand Harvest is the perfect mix of chill, cute, and fun. I'm out here farming, vibing, and living my best Smurf life. For the ultimate challenge, you can help the Smurfs build their new village. The game is completely free to play, and best of all, it's 100% ad-free. Download Solitaire Grand Harvest for free by clicking the link in the description box below or by scanning the QR code. Thank you so much, Solitaire Grand Harvest, for sponsoring this video. Do you think that they were sleeping with each other by that point?
I personally think they were.
Mindy, what was happening with at home with your dad and Lorena? Because now she's not supposed to be bugged by your mom. Was she still taking her to her appointments? And
yeah, so that was just overnight. The whole situation at night was so weird. How Bill wouldn't sleep in my mom's room, and then she wasn't allowed to bother anybody. But Lorena was there literally to take care of her. So why?
Because they were screwing. That's why.
It was really weird. And then Lorena
they have inside jokes and laugh at each other, and so it was awkward.
She started acting like she
that's right,
lived there, like that was her house. I mean, she did live there, obviously, but she started acting like it was her house, like she was the lady of the house.
Give me an example of that.
Yeah. So my dad had asked us girls, the sisters, us 4 sisters, to take turns on weekends so Lorena could have some time off because she's getting so overwhelmed with everything. So we were taking turns on Saturdays so Lorena could have a day to herself, staying with our mom. When we would come on Saturdays, she would be like, "Thank you so much for coming to help me out. And could you please do this, this, and that while I'm gone today?"
What was it? Was she asking you to wash the dishes or what?
So she would have us, manage the volunteers when they would come in, or, warm up the food, just dumb stuff like that.
Do you think that it made her feel that she felt like a sense of importance from that?
Yeah, because she saw a position of power, and it was a power grab on her part.
When was it that when Drew was still gone that you first had the thought something's not right between my dad and Lorena, or did you have that thought?
I didn't have that thought until after my mother passed away. and he still wasn't home yet. So she passed away the middle of April. It was
Easter Sunday.
Easter, the day after, it was Easter Monday. And then Bill's birthday is May 25th. And he happened to ask us all to go to the zoo with him that day. My daughter was like 4 or 5 months old at the time. And I had a toddler, my son. And so I was like, I'm out. I'm not going to the zoo today. And everybody pressured me so much, like, we'll help with your kids. And they didn't, obviously, when we got there either. But then my dad made me ride with him. While I was riding with him, he's talking to me about, do you think it would be too soon to get married? Well, my mom had been gone barely a month at this point. And I was like, oh yeah, it's definitely way too soon. And he's like, well, when do you think would be an appropriate time? He had also tried to bribe me that day with, he gave me my mother's jewelry chest. And I was like, almost said no. And then I was like, you know what? No, I will take that. Thank you very much. And then he starts talking to me about when do you think it would be appropriate to get married? And so, but we didn't talk about how when she died, he was talking about getting married in the hospital room either.
Go on.
So the day that she died, that Easter Monday, he would not come to the hospital. And I kept calling him because the doctor, I got there at I had been there all day Sunday, which he got mad at me for not going to church. But I was like, my mother is in the ICU. She's on her deathbed. I'm skipping church. Sorry. I'm going to sit with my mom on her last day. So I sat with her all day Sunday, Easter Sunday, and then, went home to sleep and then got there again right away in the morning. Our younger sister had stayed with her overnight that night. So I got there like 10 a.m. So our mom had been in the hospital all weekend. She went in the hospital Saturday and then she passed away on Monday. Bill and Lorena were together in the house alone all weekend, which obviously my mom wasn't keeping them apart either.
But also, I got a call so it must have been Friday or Saturday then. I got a call and they said, your mom's not doing super good. Well, I'm like, do I need to come home or what, And he's like, oh, no, I just want to tell you. I said, Dad, if my mom is going to die, I have to, there's a process I have to go through to get out of where I'm at. So I need a doctor and I need to verify that this is true. Otherwise, everyone's going to leave, So we have to call the Red Cross. The doctor has to verify it, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't call me.
So
you were telling
so Monday, she was dying and the doctor said so. They had taken x-rays of her lungs and there was nothing left of them. And so they were just like, there's nothing more we can do. The chemo hasn't done what it needed to do. And this is it. This is the end. And so they were like, why won't your dad come? Call your dad. Get your dad here. Because she had a CPAP. So it was breathing for her because she couldn't breathe on her own. And so the doctor had said, we need to take the mask off of her and let her go, because if we keep forcing air, it could explode her lungs and that would be really bad. But she didn't want to take the machine off until our dad got there. But he wouldn't come. And he kept saying, well, I'm working on a car in the garage. So then when he finally got there, it wasn't till 1 o'clock. And literally she was in her last moments. So he comes in the hospital room. Everybody else was there by that time. My dad's sister, Kelly, was there too. And so he finally got there. He walks in the room and sits down in a chair and he says, I need to go find the cafeteria and get something to eat. So he immediately got up and left the room. Well, I'm literally watching her chest rise and fall and counting the seconds between breaths. That's the point we were at. So
the doctors had told them, or he told them then.
He knew.
The doctor said we gave her the last morphine.
Yeah. So he gets up to go to the cafeteria, and then she stops breathing moments later, and they would not call her time of death because he wasn't there. Well, clearly he did not care. But they told my aunt, because my aunt Kelly, she's the respiratory therapist, that's his sister. She worked there at that hospital. So they knew her because she would often be in the ICU for patients, you know, because of respiratory things. So they knew her very well. So they told her, like, go down and get your brother because we don't want to call time of death unless he's in the room. So she finds him, brings him back upstairs. As soon as he walks in the room, her body's still there. They call time of death. And then he immediately starts talking about, God showed me this vision and I'm going to get married again. And I just started, like, I got a pit in my stomach. I almost started, like, I felt like I was going to throw up. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, could we maybe, like,
is your mom still in the room at this time?
yes, her body was still laying there.
Oh my gosh.
So then he's like, nope, nobody's going to help me. God already told me who I'm going to marry. And so then he starts talking about what God told him. She's going to be younger. She's going to be like, yeah, he said that. So he already knew.
She's going to be married to my son.
So what are you guys thinking sitting there hearing this?
I was in shock. So you had asked me when was the first time that I noticed. It wasn't then yet. It was the zoo day. So on the zoo day, when we were coming home from the zoo, well, first of all, I'm going to back up again because we need to cover him. He didn't get called. So Bill knew he had to call the Red Cross to get Drew home. He would not call the Red Cross.
And multiple people, especially
I
her.
kept telling him, you need to call and get Drew home. And he would not do it. He didn't do it till after she died.
And she didn't know.
I didn't know.
She didn't know that anybody could have. The doctor, anybody could have. She thought Bill had to do it.
Yep.
Whoa.
Anyone.
We get back from the hospital after she had passed, and we all ended up back at my dad's house. I don't know why to this day, but he started having people shred documents. And then he made me go pick him up from the airport. He would not do it.
This was
nobody.
This was a day or two. I didn't even know that she was dead.
You got home
next day. Or that night. One or two in the morning.
Midnight,
so, yeah.
1 in the morning. That night. So again, I have an infant, a 5-month-old baby, but no, it's fine because he and I were always so close. They wanted me to go, and I had to be the one to tell him that she already died. Yeah. And then I also had to tell him his best friend had committed suicide, and his funeral was the next morning, or that a few hours later.
I thought okay, either way, yeah.
Yeah, so that was left to me to do because they were, I don't know, they all...
Yeah, I landed thinking that they were going to take me to the hospital to see her, and we got in the car, and I could tell by her face.
And like he called a couple times because his plane was getting delayed, and
everything. And they were trying to rush me so hard.
So he would call my cell phone and be like, "Okay, I'm waiting now, and I'm gonna get on this plane.
I just landed in Georgia. Now we're going, you know."
And she had already died, but I didn't want to tell him that while he's trying to get through the airports and stuff. I just felt like that would be terrible for him to just be like sitting on a plane knowing that he isn't gonna make it. So I don't know if that was the right choice or not, but I waited till I was face to face with him to tell him. Well, so the day we got home from the hospital, we started shredding documents. Then my younger sister Emily and my brother Billy's wife Kelly said, "Lorena can't stay here anymore. You need to go home now." And she was having a fit. She did not want to leave. She said, "I don't feel like that's my home. I feel like this is my home." And Kelly and Emily then packed up all her stuff, and they were just packing it up and like, "No, you're not staying here. This is inappropriate. You know, the Bible says to avoid the appearance of evil. What is anybody in the church going to think? Mary just died and now you two are shacking up? Like, what is this? No, this isn't happening." Well, Lorena put up such a fit, and Bill, of course, also didn't want Lorena to leave. So then they let her stay like one more night, and I think Rachel stayed overnight with her or something that night. But like, so that was also really super weird. But again, because I have a new infant, I have a toddler, I've got all this other stuff going on. I still wasn't really putting two and two together yet. So he ended up going back then to finish out.
I came back. So I came back for the funeral and everything. I was here for, I think, about 2 weeks. They delayed the funeral because, of course, all the bigwig pastors had to fly in, and you had to make sure that it worked for their schedule.
Right.
So I stayed for the funeral, obviously. I wasn't allowed to go home. I wasn't. So I
where
stayed
did you stay?
with Mindy at her house. It was weird. They wouldn't let me drive. Like, it was weird. It was so weird. But at the time, I'm just thinking, well, number one, I was also blamed for my mom's death. So at the time, I'm just like,
how?
I don't want to cause how?
How are you blamed?
I was blamed because I left the church, and she worried about me and prayed for me every day. And she was too stressed. Yep, she was too stressed. And so what that did was that allowed the lack of faith and fear to come into her. Oh, and it opened the door for the devil to get her sick and kill her.
I remember when I listened to Emily's episode about this, there was something that you guys discovered about like how Lorena was taking care of your mom or not really taking care of your mom. There's something with like Post-it notes and like what's going on with the oxygen tanks. Go tell me about that.
So he was gone then. So what was happening was my mom had cancer in her lungs, so she wasn't breathing well. Her oxygen levels were low, like, so she had to wear a oxygen mask all the time. So her oxygen tank would get pulled out because the house was so big. So from her bedroom to like the living room area, she wanted to get out of bed every day and like sit up on the couch and not feel like she was sick in bed all the time. So they'd drag her tank out so her cord could, reach to the bathroom and the kitchen. So you could tell if it was full or empty by how heavy it was when you pulled it out of the room. And her tank got refilled once a week anyways. And so it was time to refill the tank, and Lorena never called to have it refilled. So my mom had just had a chemo appointment, and they had told her that the cancer didn't progress from the last appointment. Now, our dad used that to say that she was healed.
Oh, yeah, he got in front of the church and told
and at her funeral, he said that too, that she had been healed, but her body didn't have time to recover because the doctors told him that the cancer hadn't progressed from the last time. He took that to mean she was healed, but her body didn't have time to repair.
So Lorena didn't fill your mom's oxygen tank?
Did not fill the tank.
And your mom was still alive, living, needing to breathe oxygen.
Correct. And so then she's sitting there in the living room and she's measuring her O2 stats, and they're going down in the 80s. She's got her oxygen mask on, but there's no oxygen coming out of the tank, but she didn't know that. So she's sitting there praying and praying and praying and like speaking in tongues and praying and like, God, please give me more oxygen. Please let my oxygen levels get higher. And so then they would maybe go up to like 87, and she would be like, God's answering my prayers, but meanwhile she doesn't have oxygen in her tank. And then she ended up in the hospital like a couple days later.
Okay, so your wife is taking care of your mom, Drew, but not filling her oxygen tanks while she's dying with cancer. Was she trying to murder your mom so she could get to your dad sooner?
Did after I found out a lot of this stuff and got back into Minnesota months later, they would have had to exhume my mom's body and they wouldn't. But I went and talked to the police about it. And especially once I found out. So if we're going to progress how it progresses, right? So one of the things that happened during this 2 weeks where I was back, Lorena was very cold to me, and it was very awkward. She also had like stopped taking my phone calls and things like that. And at one point,
that's why I was getting to in the zoo day.
At one point, I had called Mindy, and I was like, "They're not answering their phone. What's going on?"
Did you know anything when you were back home?
No, I was pretty dumb.
Not when he was here for the funeral.
I knew it was weird. I just kind of at that point, okay, I'm here because my mom's dead. I'm going to go to her funeral, right? I'll fix all the rest when I get home. Like, obviously everyone's hurt in their own way. And that is one thing that Bill told me. He said, just leave her alone. She's really hurting. She just spent, all this time with your mom. And I'm like I'm like, but I actually was born and raised with my mom.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to go to his house. He wouldn't let me at his house. So yeah, so it was awkward, but I had what I had to do, and I don't know. I went back and finished that up, and then so the zoo day.
So then he was here for a couple weeks, till the beginning of May. Then he had to go back to his army stuff. So then it was the end of May, and he happened to call that evening after we had gone to the zoo. I had run back home to get something, and then I was coming back because we were going to eat dinner together, all of us. We were going to barbecue out because it also was Memorial Weekend. And so then he called when I was driving back to my dad's house from my house. And I was like, oh, when I pulled into my dad's house, his daughter was on the swing set. And our dad was pushing her on the swings, which also was weird because he never played with us as kids. No. And he never ever played with any of his other grandkids. Like never pushed anyone on the swing that I recall in my whole lifetime. So I thought that was also really super weird. But I was like, oh, hey, Natalia's out here. You want to talk to her real quick? So I run out there because he had like 10 minutes on his phone call.
Yeah, I didn't have much time.
So I run out there and I try to give Natalia the phone. It was like, do you want to say hi to your daddy? And my dad right away was like, nope, you can't let her do that. Go inside the house and ask Lorena first. And I was like, what? I was like, whatever. Okay. So I go inside the house and I asked Lorena, and she said no. And I was like, excuse me? And we got in a huge fight, and I was yelling, and I was like, you know what? That was the day that I said, you know what is going to happen here? I said, people are going to start talking that you and my dad have something going on. Do you want that to happen? And I didn't know because nobody was telling me. All the other siblings had been talking about it this whole time. They weren't telling me because they knew that I was talking to him like several times a week. So nobody was discussing it with me. And they were all discussing it amongst each other. So then that night when I started, like, he ended up having to hang up. He didn't even get to wait for me to fight the battle. So that day they wouldn't let him talk on the phone to his daughter. And I got in a huge fight with his wife at the time. And then my older sister, Rachel, was in there like taking her side. And so I was just like, we were yelling at each other, and I was just like, this is messed up.
Was Rachel taking her side because your dad had convinced her that Drew was...
I don't know why, but Rachel was on Lorena's side, and she was okay with them getting married. She supported it she was the only one who was not against it from the start. Oh. The other ones changed their mind somewhere along the way. Billy and Chelsea both, and Kelly was one of the first ones to try to... Kelly is Billy's wife.
Kelly still is not on board with it. I would assume. I don't know. I can't talk for anyone else.
I don't know. I don't talk to them. So
when did it happen that your dad told you guys that he and Lorena were going to be an item, and Drew was still gone, right?
So I had come back.
You came back, Drew.
So he was denying it. So we were at the end of May that I had that fight, and then in the beginning of June, they had a conference that they went to in California at Ed Dufresne's church, and he's still gone. You hadn't come back yet. We hadn't gone to your
no, I don't think I came back till maybe August or something.
No, it was June. It was July. It was July. So in June, they went to this conference, this church convention thing. They call it Desire the Fire Convention. So there were like my sister Rachel, her husband, their kids, a couple of other girls from the church. Lorena went. Our brother Billy went. So Bill and Billy were supposed to room together at the hotel.
All right.
Lorena was supposed to room with this other girl from the church. And when they arrived, so they arrived separately. Somehow Billy took a different flight or something. Bill and Lorena both decided they wanted their own rooms. And they said this wasn't on purpose, but it ended up happening that they were on a separate floor of the hotel than anyone else, and their rooms were conjoining.
Oops.
Accident?
Oops.
I don't know.
I guess something else might have been conjoining.
So the girl that Lorena was...
Oh, there's the alarm.
So the girl that Lorena was supposed to room with was friends with me. So she's calling and texting me like every day, and she's saying like, Lorena isn't rooming with me anymore. And I was like, what the heck? And she told me what happened. And I was like, well, that's crazy. So she's starting to be suspicious too. So she's telling me all these weird things that are happening. So one day she takes a picture and posts it on Facebook of, breakfast at this fresh oil conference. And every single person who went to that conference was in the photo except for Bill and Lorena. So I put a comment on under the picture saying, looks like some people are missing from your photo. So when they got home, now Bill starts preaching that Facebook is bad and nobody should have a Facebook account. But so then he calls me into the office to have a meeting with me. So I have my baby in tow in the infant carrier because she's like 6 months old at this point. And so I go into his office in the church, and there's, the back area has all of the staff offices in there. And so there's other people in there working too. Well, I'm sitting in his office and he thinks he's going to confront me and tell me that I shouldn't be making comments on people's photos. And I was like, why? Do you feel guilty about something? And he was like, I'm not saying that. And I was like, but if you were the one missing from the photo, why do you have a problem with me calling that out? And, then he's like backpedaling. And then I was like, I'm just going to straight up ask you directly, are you having a relationship with Lorena? And he said, I will not answer that question. And I said, okay, that's the answer I needed. And he's like, no, it's not. And I said, if the answer was no, you would say no. And so then he just kept arguing with me. Well, I wouldn't back down. So again, our father has never been a physically active person. I've never seen him run. Have you seen him run?
He used to try to run like once in a while.
Yeah.
Like he'll try.
No, like he wouldn't ever like play baseball or basketball. He would never like, go for a not athletic, not physically active at all. And so I'm sitting in his office and I'm not backing down, and I'm telling him directly, like, I know you're in a relationship with her. And I said, when this comes out that you guys are together, I'm going to look back. And I looked at my watch and I said, at this date, at this time, and say, you lied to my face. So he was very uncomfortable, and he stood up and walked out his door, walked around the corner, and ran away from me as fast as his legs could carry him up the hill to his house. And I'm screaming after him. And the other people in the offices like closed their doors.
Well, you were the abuser. That was not a reactive abuse. There's nothing reactive. That was 100%.
I just wasn't gonna let him lie to my face.
Wow.
Again, because they already tried to gaslight me on the zoo day. Right. And then now here you're trying to gaslight me and say I did something wrong by commenting on a Facebook picture. No, you did something wrong by doing what you did, sir. I just called you out on it.
Did the siblings all find out before Drew? Like, did your dad sit you guys down?
Immediately. So both Billy and Chelsea, the day after the funeral, caught Bill sneaking over to my house. So they had sent Lorena home. She was inside the house. Billy figured it out because he'd been calling my dad's phone and he didn't answer it. Billy went to the house and the phone was sitting on the counter.
So they find him at Lorena's house.
So Billy starts driving around looking for him and finds him walking up.
Nope, not that time. That time he stopped there and he was inside the house. And Billy literally grabbed him and said, Get out of this house. What are you doing?
Yes. So by June, we were all trying to discuss with each other, like, what are we going to do about this? Mm-hmm. And so Billy had the idea to call Ed Dufresne because he was supposedly Bill's spiritual father.
Ed Dufresne was all of our spiritual fathers.
And so Ed told Billy, do not tell your dad you talked to me. And I'm going to come there and I'm going to talk to all of you guys together. So this was like a week or two later. Ed's coming to do a meeting. So he comes to that meeting. He didn't go to the church service that night. He
No,
just
they
came to the
called me.
meeting.
They called me and asked.
So this is early July.
Called me and asked me to show up to a meeting. We got an important family meeting. We need to talk about stuff.
So Bill tells me that every time Ed comes, Bill needs a haircut, and I'm the hairstylist. So I had to go to his house and give him a haircut that morning. So at this haircut appointment, he tells me, yeah, so Ed's coming to talk to you guys and wants to see how you're all doing since mom died. And I said, oh, really? Because I know why he's really coming. I know, but Bill doesn't know, and Bill doesn't know that I know. And so I was like, oh, really? And I said, how do you think we're doing? And he said, well, some of you are doing better than others. I said, really? Like which ones? Mind you, I've already had this screaming match with him like a couple weeks earlier. So I said, oh, really? Like which ones are doing better and which ones aren't? And he's like, well, you're not doing that good. And I was like, oh, okay. Good to know.
So then the meeting, Drew, so you get this call to attend the meeting?
Yeah, so I show up to the meeting and I show up respectful and stuff. When I walk in, and this is how I like looking back, how I realized like they had been setting it up from the beginning. When I walk in, Chelsea comes up to me and says, I need you to promise me something. She's like, do you have any guns with you? I was like, no, I don't have guns. Like, why? And she's like, I need you to promise me something. Tonight's probably not going to be an easy meeting. I want you to sit next to me, and I just need you to promise that you'll bear with me until the end.
He sat between her and I.
So back it up, what Ed had done was he had already had a meeting with Bill and Chelsea and Rachel, and he had made them believe that he was going to shut all that down. And then he did the whole blind side, flip it around, and said it was God's will. But Chelsea put her hand on my knee and said, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. And Bill looks at her and says, what's that? And she said, the fact that you and Lorena are dating. And at that moment, it hit me awkwardly. I looked over at, so I had already had a meeting with my dad talking about the marriage.
That was the lunch meeting.
So I had already had a lunch meeting with my dad prior to that, talking about our marriage. And I had told him how much I'm struggling and how much it hurts.
It was like the day before.
Yeah, I'm so worried about my family and what do I do? How do I get this back? And my dad says, he says, well, I said, should I like buy her flowers or something? Like, what do I do, Dad? I don't know how to win her back. Like, I've lost her. I've tried everything. How do I win her back? He says, well, I think you should just maybe separate, sign divorce papers, pray about it, and then start dating her again. Like you never met her. Just start over. And I was like, huh. Yeah, okay. I guess if that's, and I don't know, again, why at that time am I even asking him for advice? I suppose I wanted acceptance from him or something weird.
Because it's your dad. It's your dad.
My mom's dad. I lost everything at that point. Like I'm just sad or whatever. But anyways, the point is, so then we get there. Chelsea's like, we're going to talk about this white elephant in the room. And I look over and he, at that point, like I'll never forget the expression on his face. It looked like you just caught your 12-year-old son in a lie. And he hung his face and was so ashamed, and he didn't say a fucking word.
The whole time. He never looked back up again.
Didn't say anything.
He would not even speak.
So I waited. I'm going to be real. They might remember exactly the things that were said at some point. Ed had said some things. Billy said some things. At some point.
But what did Lorena say?
She was not there. Of course she wasn't there.
She wasn't there?
No. She had the chance to be. Look, she should have owned that stuff. She should have walked in. I took your dad.
So the whole time that since I've heard about the story, found your TikToks and listened to you and Emily on a podcast, all I could think about and all I wanted to know was, did you ever look at Lorena and be like, what the hell were you thinking? Dating my dad?
I wasn't allowed to, because anything I did or said was me being abusive. So I defended myself in court and I won, and that's all that really matters. They threw everything at the books at me and
for
custody.
So that night in the meeting, when your dad, they're like, yeah, I'm dating your wife. Did you like jump him? Like, what did you do?
said, or did he tell me that later? He said, God gave me 3 options, good, better, or best. Oh yeah. So he did finally talk. Because that's when I started to really be like, yeah, I'm not staying for this anymore. So he said, God gave me 3 options, good, better, best. Well, and then he said one of them was this translator in Argentina. One of them was this, I think one of them was the girl that I probably should have married from Russia, the Natalia from there. And then the third one was Lorena. And I was like, that's best. And then he said, he gave me some real specifics. He said that she was going to be young. She'll be able to keep up with me. Oh, because he started implying that my mom was holding him back.
Because she was sick.
Wow.
I never said I had an anger problem. I walked out of there.
Yeah.
I was fresh home. I was like 180 pounds of solid steel. I had passed all types of jujitsu things. Like I could have done a lot of things that day. I don't even think I really screamed. I said some things in a manner, but I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I got up. I said, this is really it. Like, okay, well, I was right. Like, you guys are weird and creepy and culty.
Well,
I looked at Bill. I said, I've got a 1-year-old daughter. I don't even know what being a parent is like. I've only had her that long, but I can tell you this. Never in my life will I ever do something to intentionally harm one of my children or my family. It's not a thing. Never.
You also said, I just sat down with you yesterday and asked you how to get my marriage back, and you lied to my face. And
then Ed got up and he said, they called me Andy. And realize this, like, I grew up with Ed Dufresne and his family and all of the other cult leaders, right? And like they pretended to be my family. So Ed got up and he was like, you'll always be my spiritual son. I said, do not touch me.
Yeah.
I was like, don't look at me. Don't touch me. I'm going to hope that I never know any of you again. And I walked out, and it was the night I met my second wife. That's part 2. I'm kidding.
So you leave this meeting, and then like in the midst of all of this, your dad ends up stealing money from your grandma. How did that happen, and how much did he steal?
So the day that my mom died, at the hospital, after he got done talking about who his next wife was going to be, he turned to my brother-in-law, who also was the business manager at the church. And he said, go get me a power of attorney for Mary.
That's right.
And sign it like chicken scratch, like she would have signed. He didn't know it wasn't good after she died. The day after she died, he went and put his name on my grandma's bank account. This was my mom's mom. And immediately started writing checks from her account to do things like pay for his taxes. He paid a check to my brother-in-law. He paid a check to another guy who works at the church for something. Like, just there was, checks going out. And so meanwhile, my grandmother is 95 years old. She lives in a nursing home. She wears diapers. She's in a wheelchair. She can't take care of herself at all. And she is having checks bouncing from her account. She can't get her glasses fixed. She can't get her dentures fixed. So she's got no teeth in. Her glasses are hanging off her head like this. I happen to have a friend whose hair that I did for many, many years, who worked at the nursing home taking care of my grandma. So I went there to visit her one day, and this was almost a year after my mom had passed away. And she said, did you know your grandma's getting evicted? I said, what? She said, yeah, I'm not supposed to tell you that, but you might want to ask ask the business office about it, or, talk to your aunt or whatever. And so at the hospital, the day my mom died, I told my aunt, you need to take over grandma's accounts. And she was like, no, she didn't understand. She thought all the money was being paid directly to the nursing home, but it wasn't. The money was going into her account, and she was supposed to pay the nursing home. So she hadn't, in that whole year, since my mom had passed away, her nursing home bill wasn't being paid. So her checks are bouncing. Her cable got shut off. She couldn't get her dentures. She couldn't get her glasses. Her checks are bouncing so that her nursing home bill isn't getting paid. So they're about to evict her, because they would tell him, like, you're 3 months behind. If you don't catch up by such and such a date, she will be evicted. So I asked, like, what do you mean? Where would she go? And they said, we'll park her on his doorstep. And I was like, he's never going to take care of her. What do you mean?
Maybe Lorena should have taken care of her.
So I also happen to have a client who is a lawyer, a prosecutor for the county we live in. So I called her right away and I was like, and this is what's happening. What do I do? So she told me, gather, XYZ information and go talk to this particular detective. I'm going to call him ahead of time and tell him that you're coming. So I called my aunt and I said, I'm going to need your help with this because I don't have access to all these things and you will be able to. So she got my grandma's, they had changed her power of attorney without telling my aunt. And so my aunt was taken off of her power of attorney. So she went in and they got it switched back to her. And then she went to the bank and got her last 12 months of bank statements. We got the last 12 months of statements from the nursing home. Couple other things. We took it to the detective and then he set out to investigate. So then my friend who worked at the prosecutor's office was calling me, every once in a while and telling me, like, you might want to call and check in with the prosecutor on your dad's case today. So I was the only one who went to every single hearing.
That was when 2010, 11, something like that. So I was in Iraq during that time, or yeah.
Yep.
So your dad was charged, and did he get jail time?
No, for plea.
So he was charged with financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult.
Felony.
The prosecutor who was handling his case, the reason why I had to keep calling her and keep putting pressure on her, she wanted to drop it because her own mother was in the nursing home at the time and she was managing her mother's care. So she felt this sort of empathy of like, it could have been an accident, but it wasn't. It was very intentional. And so because I kept putting the pressure on and because I went to every single hearing to make sure that she knew this was important and it did matter, my grandma was too old and my aunt was too scared and nobody else wanted to go. So it was me. So I went.
Did he spend any time in jail?
Yes. So,
1 day.
So he was, no, more than that. He was sentenced to 4 days. And so he checked in on a Thursday night at 7 p.m. That counted as 1 day. Then he was there Friday, Saturday, day 2 and 3. Then Sunday morning, they let him out at 7 a.m. That counted as day 4. And he went straight to preach a service at his church from jail.
So he got a slap on the wrist. So like most of these pastors do. So back to Lorena and your dad. When did they end up getting married? What was that like? Who went to the wedding?
Oh, none of us. It was secret, but it was January 10th. And the only reason I know is she, of course, set her email as 0110 something. So it's January 10th of 2010, I think.
That's my anniversary.
Our divorce was finalized like September. So timeline goes like this. Mom dies in April. Divorce is finalized in September. They're married in January.
And it was a secret wedding?
It was a secret.
Oh, yeah. They flew to California and Ed Dufresne did it. So same guy that prophesied to me, the same guy that stood at my wedding.
And then they weaponized your daughter against you, right?
100%. So at that time, the court system would not recognize parental alienation at that time. They absolutely weaponized. They tried to weaponize everything. One of the things in the court order was that Natalia is not allowed to call Bill dad. They didn't follow any of the court orders ever.
So she's calling her grandpa dad.
Yep. Yeah, can't call Bill dad.
They
made her from before, like by the time I got back, she was calling me Andy. And I was like, oh, I'm dad. And then she was like, no. And then she started saying, no, grandpa's daddy. So Bill's big thing is you always hire the meanest, nastiest attorney. He brags about the reason why he won the Assembly of God lawsuit was because he went through the phone book and he found this place called Lindquist and Venom. And he said, if your attorney's name is Lindquist and Venom, they're mean, they're nasty. You got to get the meanest, nastiest attorneys in the world and they'll win the cases for you. And we had a family attorney that he grew up with Bill in Buffalo. And this guy was a super nasty, creepy type guy. And he brought me into his office and he sat me down And he said, hey, I drew this stuff up for you. He said, let me tell you what happens in divorces. They're messy. They're nasty. All your laundry is going to be aired everywhere. You don't want this stuff going out there. You know, you don't want everyone to know this about your family. All you got to do is sign this paper. And I read through it. And mind you, I don't know anything about a divorce because in the Bible, according to my church and my cult upbringing, you never get a divorce. But anyway, so there's 3 papers there. And, it was pretty simple. It was like, you keep the house and this and that. You don't have to pay child support. And Lorena will take care of your kid because you're in the army and this and that. And he starts explaining to me, like, you might die. You might die. You're a sniper. That's a dangerous job. Somebody's got to take care of your daughter while you're gone. And Lorena was sitting there. And at this time, I'd already been outcasted. Like, I've already done all this stuff. I got guilt. I got shame. I really did nothing wrong. I mean, I really didn't. I didn't do anything wrong. Like, I hadn't even told anybody. Like, I'm keeping quiet. I'm living my life. Like, at that point, I had been in Natalia's life still. So he looks at Lorena. He's like, I mean, do you have a problem like when he's home on leave and this and that, or when she's getting a little older, she can go down to Georgia with him and this and that? Like, is it going to be a problem of him seeing his daughter? And Lorena looks at me straight in the face and said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is Natalia's father. He should be in her life. Well, I didn't know. I was signing that she has full legal and physical custody, and there is no parenting time at all. Yeah, nothing. So it just, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And so I did all that. I must have done that the day I got back. Because then the meeting was a couple weeks later, and by then it had already been to the judge and he had already signed off on it. And because I got the paperwork back right after that meeting.
So he stole your wife and your child.
Wife, he stole my child. I signed away all my rights. And it is the exact same thing that he did with my older sister, Chelsea. And it is the exact same thing he did with my mother, Mary, and Chelsea.
Yeah.
They sign the things and they leave. That's the rule.
So you ended up getting your rights back to your daughter, correct?
I did. It cost me $150,000, everything I had.
All this, and then your daughter at like age 17 tells you she has to excommunicate from you?
She's almost 16. And again, I have told my daughter I'm proud of her. I actually just texted her the other day and told her that too. She's chose to go no contact with me, but she hasn't told me I can't contact her yet. I'm sure that will be my next letter in the mail. But I know that at some point she'll see things and figure it out.
But how did that conversation start? What did she say to you?
Well, so the very important part about this is 6 months. It was maybe even 9 months before the conversation happened. I began to notice very strong pulling away, right? I don't know. I tried to pull her back and this and that. And yep. And so I had guarded my daughter. So I actually kept the side of my court order, which was don't talk bad about the mom and all this stuff, right? So I did nothing but excuse her mom all the time. Well, blah, 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 whatever. Doesn't matter. But the point is, I noticed she's pulling away, and I just, there was nothing I could do. And I decided, I'm this Leandra Zimmerman girl. She had released a story. I think you actually had told me about her. She was on TikTok. I didn't know anything about TikTok. And she contacted me, or we contacted each other somehow. And we were talking just on TikTok chatting. And she said, you need to do a video. I was like, how does that? I don't know anything about this. She's like, just turn your phone on and talk. I made it's a video on there that I hope nobody ever sees, but it was the first video I made. It's me in my garage. I was probably as depressed as I've ever been in my life. I was just going through it, which is the story of my life until now.
This is before or after your daughter disconnected?
This is right during the time she's disconnecting. And so I don't know. It was just the time to do it. We did it, and overnight, I think it got like 750,000 views or something crazy.
And it was saying what? What was the video saying?
I sat there and I said, well, you can't make this stuff up. My dad married my wife. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, he's also a cult leader of a church. And I'm a military veteran. I was a sniper and combat veteran overseas. And I think that's about all I said.
I think so. Yeah. I think the first one was pretty short.
So it was getting views so fast, you could look at it and it was just rolling. And I was like, what the? So then all of a sudden, everyone's like, wait, what? Like, what happened? And so then they wanted me to tell my story. And
then your daughter disconnected?
So she disconnected throughout that. So no, they made an ultimatum. My daughter actually bribed me. And this is how I knew it came from my dad. She came over to me and she said, Dad, you did something that really hurt our family. And I said, okay, honey, what's that? She said, you made a video and it's hurting our family. And I said, are you talking about my TikTok? She said, this was shortly after Bill had preached a sermon stating that everyone that uses TikTok is dumb. There's no more strong silent types. And if you have to get there and blast everything out on social media, you better check your sources. Okay. I have my receipts and sources and I'd love to see his. But so she told me that, and then she said, I decided that I don't want to come over anymore. And I said, well, there's one thing I've always taught you, it's to be truthful and honest. And I appreciate this. And I want you to know this, that I love you more than anything. You're my first daughter and I've always loved you. If there's one thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to ever force you to make decisions. I think you should make your own decisions. You're really smart. And I just told her I loved her and I will always be there for her. And said, if ever there's a day where you need to get away, I hope you know this, like, I will always be here for you. I don't care what it is, what day, what time. And that was the last time I saw her, talked to her.
Did she tell you that if you took the TikTok down?
She did, yeah. She said, if you remove that video, I think we could still all get along and hang out and stuff like that. And I told her, I said, if I remove that video, then I'm a liar. And I said, I think my big mistake, honey, is that I protected you from this. I thought I was doing the right thing. And I said, if anybody's ever abusing anyone or hurting other people, you should always speak up.
How long ago was that? Like, how many years has it been since you haven't spoken to her?
She just turned 18 in February. So, and she was just about to turn 16. So it's been 2 years.
That's got to be really hard for you.
I don't like it. I don't like it. No, but
that's part of the reason why we do these podcast interviews and, other things like that, is because I hope she sees it. I hope she gets the information that she needs to make decisions that she needs to make. I hope other people who are stuck in a situation like that can see that you can get out and there is hope on the other side. I think that's part of why we're willing to have these conversations. A lot of it is for her.
Yeah, and she's in the cult, so she's a victim of the cult itself.
Well, and they did it to us too. So they groom you. So, like, for instance, some of the things she said is, God has a calling for her life, plan for her life, and then if she has a relationship with me, she can't really follow that. There were things like that went. I mean, the verbiage was absolutely straight from Bill.
I feel that family betrayal is probably the worst pain one can go through. You went through family betrayal on another level. It's an unheard of level. What made you want to keep going and fighting through all that pain?
I mean, recently, I don't know. I guess I'm just too dumb to stop. I don't know that I handled any of it right, but it's all kind of come together now. And I think I've noticed again, like, so somebody like Bill, well, number one, he doesn't have any of these cult leaders, right? So I don't think they have any of the life experience to even show empathy. Obviously, they're missing part of their brains and they can't probably too, but
from my perspective, what I saw is, like we were talking about earlier, when he was the children's pastor and he loved those kids so much and he just wanted to help them and help them so they didn't have to go through some of the things that he went through. And then he joined the military to also serve his country. And, he got some medals for doing extra service over there. And then, I think he doesn't have a give up in him. He wants to help other people. He wants to do the right thing. He doesn't have it in him to give up.
But I mean, why don't give up? I'll never give up. I love my kids too much. The
Yes.
other side of this that we've never really exposed, but I don't care because I'm an open book. Actually, when I was fighting for my daughter, I ran out of money. I was getting foreclosed on. Like I couldn't do anything. So I had a friend approach me and ask if I knew how to change VINs on cars. And I was part of a chop shop for about 9 months. Um, it didn't get found out until like 10 years later. But when the feds showed up at my door, it was a federal crime. I did time for that as well. But when they showed up at my door, they opened the door and they're like, I went by the name of Axel at the time. I had a code name so no one would narc me out. They're like, "Oh, Axel, we've been looking for you." And I said, "Come on in." They sat down. They said, "Do you want to call an attorney?" I said, "No, I'm good." And I literally just told them everything. They were like, "Does this happen?" Absolutely, I did all that, and I admitted all of it. I got in front of the judge. They were going to give me 5 years, and the judge. So the feds are really thorough. So they did a whole pre-sentencing investigation and stuff, and they found out what happened because it's all in Sherburne County court records with Bill and all that. And then the judge went over and above, and he called my military unit and found out some of the stuff that I did for the military and overseas. And he said, "Is there anything you want to say?" I said, "Well, Your Honor, I 100% should not have done what I did." I said, you know, like I didn't justify it. I said, I committed crimes and I made money off of it. And I didn't think I was hurting people. And quite frankly, I just wanted to save my daughter, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he said, "Well, here's the deal. I'm going to give you 1 day credit for everything you did overseas." He said, "I actually talked to a general about you and they had nothing but good things to say about you." And he said, "I don't want to give you time, but the rule says I have to." And he said, "The rule says I have to give you 5 years." And I was like, "Oh boy. Okay. All right, cool." Well, I had none of the money because I spent it literally all on my attorney for these custody cases. And so then he said, "But I found this. There's a downward departure that we can do. So I can take a year off for that." My attorney didn't find this. My federal attorney did not find these downward departures. The judge who was sentencing me did. But again, accountability, right? I stood up and I said, "Yeah, I did it. It was dumb. I made really stupid decisions, and I've made a lot of those. And I guess I'll try and figure out how to not do that anymore." It was probably a better speech than that, but I ended up, he sentenced me to a year and he gave me a split. He gave me what's called a split sentence. So it was supposed to be 6 months in a federal prison, and then it was supposed to be 6 months on house arrest at my house. I showed up. I think I had a week or something to show up. I showed up to go to prison, and they said, "You don't have to go to prison. We're not taking you to prison." And I was like, "Well, I got sentenced to prison." They said, "No, we have a federal halfway house. You can go live there. You have a job." I was like, "Well, no, because I'm going to prison." He said, "Well, get a job, and you can be out 12 hours a day doing this and this."
Are you out of the crime lifestyle now?
Yeah, I'm 100% out. I volunteer for multiple organizations. I'm working on an initiative right now where we're going to use art therapy to help people with PTSD and things like that. They have nothing like that in this area.
That's great. That's really great. Knowing everything about your dad that you guys do, because you grew up with him, you saw the interactions between your mom and him and how he treated your mom. Do you think Lorena and your dad are happy?
Well, I mean, so my mom and dad were never happy, but she
No,
faked
they
it.
weren't. No,
But
our
that's
parents.
why she liked me the best, because she used to tell me stuff about all the time. Like she used to ask me if I would lose my salvation if she left my dad. Like that's what her concern was. I'm
Wow.
like, I'm not even like, I don't even believe in Jesus, so I'm safe. You're good.
Yeah, our
Um,
parents never really got along that well. There was always a lot of tension between them. They were always like arguing and bickering. And I so I have a hard time imagining that.
What
I just
What do
think
you think?
I don't think they could be. I don't think they could be. I've never seen them together, as a matter of fact.
Well, I have. Well,
But
he
I
tried to
don't.
come to court. The judge kicked him out of court, and it was actually funny because the judge told him he's never allowed back in the courtroom during these cases, and then told him, you better pray to whatever God you think you believe in every night for forgiveness for what you've done to your family. My attorney turned to me and said, that doesn't happen. I've never seen that happen in the history of the 25 years I've done court.
So
I don't even think it's legal to say God.
So I've never really seen them together, so I don't know. Like, I would have no idea whether they're happy or not, but I can't imagine that they are.
But at the end of the day, I wonder what Billy's going to do if Lorena inherits everything and he gets nothing. I don't know.
Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah, there'll be a big fight for power.
Reality TV.
So what last words do either of you have to say to people who are listening to this, who can't believe this happened, or just about your experience and growing up in a fundamentalist cult and now being an adult and being out of that? What do you have to say?
I say to everybody the same thing, like, don't beat yourself up. You can get through things. Life is about failure. If you fail, get back up. It's not the moments that make us. I think it's the journey. So enjoy the journey. And I don't know. That's about it. Try and be good.
I think I would say that there's hope on the other side. When I watch these kinds of things, I look to see, like, how have these people survived this, what they've been through, because it's been really hard what we've been through in our lives. And, we didn't learn the tools we needed growing up. So we're having to learn them now as adults, but you can do that. And there is hope, and there is healing, and there is life after severe trauma, escaping a cult. There's life afterwards.
Yeah, you guys take care of each other, and thank you so much for being brave enough to share.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your night.
Don't forget that the #1 free solitaire game in the world is now even better because the Smurfs have been added in-game. Download Solitaire Grand Harvest for free by clicking the link in the description box below or by scanning the QR code. Thank you so much, Solitaire Grand Harvest, for sponsoring this video.